Welcome to Improv for the Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be taking a second look at improv and AI. Let's hit it. Welcome to Improv for the Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Lee Evans, and in this episode, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be taking a second look at improvisation and artificial intelligence. Ooh, now I know what you're thinking. Michael, you've talked about this before. Stop rehashing, you old hack. What is this, a rerun? Syndication? No. We're not at that point yet. We haven't hit 100 episodes. No. So I wanted to kind of loop back on AI because it's an ever-evolving discussion, an ever-evolving topic, and something that's growing both in capability and relevance each and every day. And the last time we explored AI and improv was back in August 2023. And a lot has changed since then. I mean, the use cases, the availability, the opportunity has increased, I'd say at least tenfold by then. So in this episode, we're just going to be looking at a couple of examples from recent news stories that I want to explore, discuss, ponder a little bit, ask some ethical questions, and just kind of see where this leads us. And the two examples that I've talked about, we'll get into the ethics of all of it in a little bit. But the last time we had this discussion, I did an episode where I kind of talked about, most importantly, ChatGPT, and we explored using kind of the text-to-speech and speech-to-text features of ChatGPT to improvise with it, have a little back and forth, a little play, things like that. And, it was incredibly interesting. We were able to kind of see the ability of this large language model, ChatGPT, to pull and string together information, take suggestions, even write scripts. And although it was creating these things on the fly, with our understanding of how large language models work, like ChatGPT, right? It's been essentially fed a number of different text sources from the internet. Who knows? We're not entirely sure. And it's just learning what it can from all those text sources and copying examples and pulling that information together, which is both similar and dissimilar to how we as humans improvise, right? We build upon all our experiences and we pull prompts, suggestions, ideas from those experiences. And that's why each and every improviser is unique, because all their experiences are unique. Whereas ChatGPT is not having its own experiences, it's learning from examples of others. And that's kind of the difference there, where we learn from what we have lived. ChatGPT learns from the lives of others rather than its own experience. That could change in the future. That's how AI is right now, right? It's fed data from other sources, originated elsewhere, but not within itself. All right. So with that said, AI, it's growing. Maybe this is something that's a hot topic for you. Maybe it's something you're interested in. Maybe you live your life, you've seen no impact. You're not even thinking about this. Well, unfortunately or fortunately for me, I'm thinking about it all the time because in my day job, IT, it's something that's very relevant. And in education in particular, another field that I'm loosely involved in, also very relevant. And, surprisingly, it's something that is also very relevant in the arts in this industry, right? Comedy, writing, screenwriting, filmmaking, playwriting, and improvisation in particular. There's a lot of debates about AI, the ethics of AI, using AI to replace performers, replace writers, replace staff, replace humans, right? And it's one of those things I think it's important to stay up to date with, to understand how it's affecting and shaping our world, because it's changing and growing in ability every day. So with that said, climb off my soapbox here, which is not possible because this is podcast. And a podcast is just a soapbox. I want to take a look at a couple of examples of recent news stories that bring this up, that bring up AI, because it's a meaty subject. And again, this is something I probably want to revisit in another 6 to 8 months, who knows, as it continues to evolve. So the first example we're going to talk about is an article from the Dallas Observer that's basically titled "Artificial Intelligence Takes on Dallas Comedy in New Improv Show." And I'll leave links to both these articles that I'm referencing in the description for this episode, as I usually do. But they developed a show called "Whose Mind Is It Anyway?" which, killer. Love the title. I'm already hooked. I'm like, okay, I'm going to Stomping Ground Theater in Dallas, Texas. I'm going to go see a show called Whose Mind Is It Anyway? They're doing AI. Dallas, has got a bit of a tech scene. Austin, well, other side of the state, also has a tech scene. So you know what? There's a lot of techies in Texas. They're probably interested and intrigued by an AI comedy show. And to preface, I know this is also happening in Los Angeles. I just thought it would be interesting to reflect upon and discuss improv and AI happening in other parts of the country, not just Los Angeles. Although we are based in Los Angeles and we talk a lot of LA here. Anyway, with that said, so what is this? What is this show? Whose mind is it anyway? So this is a new long-form narrative improv show that's going to be led by the Stomping Grounds' unique 3D animated AI character called Amy or AI-me that will be projected on stage. And during the performance, this AI-me, Amy, will be given audience suggestions and help the performers generate characters throughout the show. But it's a long-form improv show. And they'll be able to incorporate these AI personas into their work. So they must interweave their characters' pasts to form a compelling story for the audience. So the idea is that audience suggestion goes to AI. AI takes that suggestion, develops a character, a backstory, maybe a little bit, and feeds that to the performers on stage. So it's ripening up, it's juicing the audience suggestions, making them maybe a little stronger, a little better. I'm probably wondering, okay, how does this tech work? Who came up with this? So a little bit of backstory. There's this guy, his name is Mike Christian. He's an improviser, but he's also a software engineer who's, he performs at this Stomping Ground Theater. And part of his day job, he works with AI. He works with different AI models, and he kind of made a spin-off of what he's doing at work and created this improv AI. So he began developing his own AI to help him practice comedy in his spare time. Maybe he wanted to work on his yes-anding. I don't know. But it's interesting to think about. And he spent the last year or so molding and shaping this AI to be able to receive input, process the data, and even store memory to remain consistent throughout the show. That way the AI, like if it comes up with a character early in the show, it can remember that character that it created, reference it later, maybe evolve it, shape it, tweak it a little bit, or give more information based off that same character, which is, crazy to think about. And so this AI during the performance, they'll get an audience suggestion. They'll type it in, give these text prompts to the AI. It'll take it in, feed it, come up with a prompt, and read it back in its own voice, this AI-me. Read it back, which is kind of scary. And you see like this 3D model, like, hi, I'm AI-me. And I received a suggestion of blank. And it will now create this character. Wild, absolutely wild. I mean, this guy, Mike Christian, very, very smart guy, very clever use and integration of AI into live improv performance. I imagine it's very engaging for the audience to see this like 3D model taking in their suggestions. That would be a lot of fun. You're like, whoa, this AI is talking about the thing I said, pineapple, crazy. The audience would really get a kick out of that. It's a great show of technical skill turned into something digestible by a live audience. So that's what it does. It is an AI character, dare I say, that helps the performers. It's not replacing anyone. So is this a good thing, this AI-me, and this show called Whose Mind Is It Anyway, happening in Dallas, Texas? That's right, that's a lot of information. Here's some thoughts I have. Well, I don't know if this is a good thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing. But what I like about this particular use case of AI is that it's not replacing a human performer or necessarily any human function in the show. It's adding to it. It serves as a tool to help the performers draw more from the audience suggestions. And rather than the performers having to rely on single words, they receive a stronger generated prompt from AI-me to help build out their long-form narrative, to help build out their characters, better backstories, just a richer show, more depth. This is one of those things, right? They say you either adapt or die. Pretty brutal statement. I feel like that's Darwinism almost. But, at times that's true. And this improv group, this theater I think they're trying to find a way to do that. And I don't know how I feel about this because, again, it's not replacing a human. You're not saying no human suggestions. We're removing a human performer and only AI. AI is having a back and forth with our performers. It's a little more than that. I think it adds something to the show. The developer, the guy, Mike Christian, that we talked about, during the show, he plays this character as almost a bumbling professor having interactions with the AI. So there is a bit of back and forth between those two happening throughout the show as they continue to use those audience prompts, which again could be a lot of fun. Sounds like something you'd see at Disneyland or a theme park, right? But my concern is this, right? You're using this AI tool. You say, okay, audience, I got these suggestions. One, that's a great filter because you can hear the suggestions and you choose what you feed it into the AI, right? So you're going to hear the suggestions. You're like, really? Why did you yell that? Why did you say that? Happens in every improv show. Just part of the gig. Up to the performers to use their discernment and judgment there. But anyway, so you get your prompts, you put them in. I think there is something lost in that process. Although I think the AI could add a fun factor to the show, it does take away that element of creativity and humanity, right? To see what humans come up with those suggestions fully. You're bringing a computer into the creative process, into the room, right? Or the writer's room, if you will, because usually it's these improvisers building this thing together, where instead, they're getting some additional tools to help them build, which again is cool, but also a little like, hey, like you're removing this opportunity from the humans. So you're not removing a human, you're just lessening their opportunities within the show, right? You don't need to have as many ideas because the AI is taking on some of that load for you. Maybe you don't need to come up with a character because the AI is giving you a prompt. And that's kind of where I'm like, oh, rubs me a little bit the wrong way. And I think it would be really interesting to talk with these folks and just hear a little bit about it, hear about their experience, as they're trying to push the art form, which again, I do really appreciate that. They're saying, hey, AI is an interesting thing. It's a hot button issue. We don't understand it, a lot of folks, but let's bring it into our show. Give kind of folks an entryway into seeing how this all works and what this really is and kind of where it's at right now in terms of capability, but turn it into comedy. There's probably some great ways to poke fun at it, as I'm sure it messes up sometimes, or, it isn't perfect, or it gives a strange suggestion or a character. So that's where I feel on that one. Is it a good thing? No, but is it bad? Maybe not. Interesting use case. Let's look at our second example, and this will kind of help make things clear. Okay, so that was our first example, right? Artificial intelligence takes on Dallas comedy in new improv show. Whose mind is it anyway? AI, Amy character, helps give suggestions to performers based off what the audience says. Second example. And this second example ties back into something that we actually talked about a few episodes ago. FreeStyle Love Supreme, the hip-hop rap improv group founded by Lin-Manuel Miranda and friends. Kind of a spin-off of that and some of the creative work from there is this service platform, SaaS, right? Systems as a service. I don't know. Called FreeStyle Plus, which is kind of based off some of the work of FreeStyle Love Supreme, and then it's a corporate improv training. So there's this platform app kind of program that a business can sign up for called FreeStyle Plus. And the whole idea of FreeStyle Plus is that it's sort of a mental health subscription that's to kind of give your team or your workers, right, your employees, fun, like creative, improv-based science freestyle activities to help achieve flow and mental well-being. So it's kind of like taking some principles of improv of like listening, connecting, call and response, yes and turning that into like games and activities you can do, I think, from what I can understand, either together with another person or individually on your own. Check-in questions, things like that. I mean, we do that here at IFTP. Question of the week. That's how we start every class before we begin doing our improv. But something new they're adding to this app, this service, is called Mindless Games, which again, it's called Mindless Games. Immediately I'm like, you're trying to teach people to be mindful, but the games are mindless? I have some questions. But what that is, it's AI-driven games that use improv resilience and engagement to help team members find a sense of connection. The goal with this whole platform is to expand access to improv as in-person activities are not always a viable option. And so FreeStyle Plus, this service, this platform, they do a lot of work with corporations, as I mentioned, right? Companies can often be international or at least nationwide. They have people stationed in LA, Chicago, New York, different cities all throughout the US or all throughout the world. In-person trainings aren't always a viable option, but FreeStyle Plus says like, hey, these principles of improv, teamwork, connection, engagement, collaboration, You want to teach these to your employees? We have a way to do that virtually. So again, I like the spirit of this. I really like the spirit of this. But from what I've seen, from the brief information that's available, this is a product that hasn't fully launched yet. Well, let me talk about some of the features, then we'll get into my thoughts on it. Let's say this. And these are pulled from the article that's titled FreeStyle Plus announces new AI-driven improv games library. It's from VentureBeat. It says, some of the features: quick, creative, collaborative mental fitness games designed to increase resilience and reduce self-judgment. Endless replayability and real-time scoring and assessments powered by a proprietary game engine and generative AI. Neuroscience stats and facts from published papers and studies that reinforce the purpose of each game, as well as non-game video and audio content. So this is like a content platform, games, activities, exercises for mental well-being. In theory, I like some of these things. I do. I think, mental well-being is important. Teaching people how to reduce self-judgment and increase resilience is useful both in life and in the workplace. These are all good things. Things I like. Mental well-being, again, connection with your teammates, your team members. A stronger team creates a more productive and happy workplace. Right? People who like and respect one another can be really important. But this also seems kind of weird. You're like, hey, I want you to, work on connecting or collaborating with your team members. Here's this app you're going to do by yourself. It's going to teach you about improv that you're going to do by yourself or with this AI. It's going to generate responses and tell you stats. And to preface this is a product that has not fully been released. There's actually a reveal happening later in April where they're going to have some demos and some opportunities to try this out. But I am cautious. I'm wary. I'm weary and I'm wary, but weary for other reasons, not AI related. I'm just life. So I'm wary about this. And like I said, full reveal of this product hasn't happened yet. The spirit of FreeStyle Plus. I love the idea of making improv and its principles more accessible. I believe that the best kind of art is the kind that is available to all who seek it. Right? That's a huge problem with a lot of theater arts in particular, I think, is that they're not accessible. So people don't know, don't care, or aren't interested because they've never had the opportunity to access them. Broadway, theater, live theater, musicals, things like that can be so expensive and so almost elitist. And I think that's a shame because there are beautiful stories, beautiful music, beautiful art, beautiful performers that are all, there's so many people missing out on those opportunities to see it because they don't have access. Best kind of art is the one that's accessible. Shout out if you've ever been interested in Keith Haring, right? Art for the people. That's what one of his core principles. He wasn't just all about making tote bags. He wanted to make art that was both engaging, provocative, and available, accessible. Public art that he did on public transit. I believe improv and so many other types of live performance should be the same way. Music, dance, theater. Theater's a big one for me because theater is very expensive. Anyway, with that said, I like that this app makes this accessible to people or employees, who might not always have these opportunities. But the AI part, it makes me nervous. I'm willing to learn more. I'm willing to give this a chance. I would love to be able to try this out. I don't know that I am. Something I need to look into more. But taking out the human element of these improv principles of yes-anding, reducing self-judgment, increasing resilience, and just having a computer and AI help you learn these things, I don't know. Because this, again, kind of goes into like, it's using your smartphone more, a tool that was once meant to connect us that now I feel makes us feel more disconnected than ever, to try and help you learn these things. It all seems a bit ironic and messy in its philosophy. And improv is something I believe that what I love about it is that it's an activity that I get to do where I can put my phone away. I don't need it. I don't need a screen. I don't need a computer. It's just me and the other person I'm on stage with. It's the beauty of it, back to just basic human stuff. So yeah, I don't know. FreeStyle Plus, Lin-Manuel, what are you doing, man? Please write another musical. I really like your work. I know Hamilton got really oversaturated, but you can do some good stuff. Get in the writing room, man. Stop worrying about this AI stuff. Please write some stuff. Because I also think if you're doing a corporate training and the training is like, hey, we're going to make you use AI to be a better employee. Like if I were to hear that, I'm out. I do not buy into that. I'm like, wait. So instead of exercising and doing something to get to know my team better, we're gonna sit on an app and do that. I am dunking on FreeStyle Plus. Not ashamed. Maybe they'll send me a cease and desist, but no press is bad press. Anyway, let's tie this all together, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, Michael, AI, you're insane, man. So I think AI it's necessary, not necessary, but it is going to become a necessity. I think its use is only going to increase. It's going to evolve and become more capable. It already has so much since we last spoke about it on the podcast. And again, it's one of those things like you can't ignore it when it's going to become so prevalent in so many avenues of society, ones we haven't even thought about or anticipated yet. 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, we'll see. You know, there's so many opportunities and possibilities for this tech of where it could go. And with an improv, I think my biggest problem is when, not in the use of AI itself, but when AI replaces the role of humans, right? This idea of automation. Why should a human do it when a machine is right there? And I think when any sort of art form loses its humanity, I feel as though it loses value. Because what makes art beautiful is that it comes from humans and reflects our experience and reflects life. But when it's from AI, we're not AI. You know, so I think it's a fine line you have to ride. And I think that show, Whose Mind Is It Anyway? I think they're onto something with their implementation, their use of AI. It's a tool, it's adding to the performance, but it is not a replacement. And that's where I feel like, okay, you're onto something there. I hope others look to your example. I found something similar. With this FreeStyle Plus thing, to me, from my understanding, I feel as though it might be replacing humans, and that hurts. And I mean, I think of businesses like IFTP that have corporate relationships. Like, what a sad thing if a company, you know, instead of having human face-to-face interaction, right, building these relationships with our employees and building up their confidence, let's instead get them this platform, this app, and they'll work on this individually. I think that's a sad day when corporations make that choice over the opportunity to build something in person together. You know, besides the fact that this is a crazy world, modern world, people are living all over, businesses work all over. That is something that needs to be taken into account. With that said, AI, improv. I think we're going to be seeing more and more of it in the near future. I'm curious to see what innovations and how it can push the art form. As we've discussed before on this show, it often seems like improv is, you know, not that it's stale, but it's stagnant. It's not moving how it once was, you know, during the mid to late 1900s. That sounds weird to say, but like from 1960 onward, how it was on fire in its evolution. I don't know that it's moving at the same pace, but maybe AI is something that can push improv into the future, hopefully for the better. But we'll have to wait and see. So with that said, if you're interested in checking out those 2 articles, I'll leave them in the episode description. As always, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Improv for the Podcast. We'll be back next week. We got a great couple of interviews coming up. Really excited. But until then, check us out on any platform there's podcasts. And until then, we'll see you next time. Improv for the Podcast was created by Matt Moore and Michael Lee Evans. Edited and produced by Michael Lee Evans. And finally, presented by Improv for the People. Interested in more IFTP? You can visit us at improvforthepeople.com or on our socials, such as Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Remember, new episodes are released weekly. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.